Welcome back to another issue. I'm Beastie Boy,
I'm Table.
I'm Red.
And it is I, Shino Brando.
and for today, we'll be having another double-sized issue with the series finale of Supernatural and giving a synopsis of the anime adaptation for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. We'll start off with Red and Table discussing Supernatural.
So Supernatural is this wild beast of a show that has been on since 2005.
It's ancient.
It is ancient, since the first active Comic-Con.
Goodness.
That's quite some
And-
time.
So, Red, when did you pick up Supernatural? What part of your
I-
life did you start watching in?
I think I picked it up when I was in high school, and by then season 7 was out, so everybody can do the math and figure that one out. But,
About
right?
8 years ago?
Yeah, give or take. The final season is season 15, and all
Yes.
that's streamable right now is season 14. But I watched season 7 mostly as it was happening, but I caught all of it the first time on Netflix. And
Ooh.
so I watched it in the weirdest order imaginable. So I watched all the way through season 7. Then,
Okay.
as season 8 was airing, I watched seasons 1 through 6, and then waited a couple years and dropped the show, and then start off with season 8 and caught up through season 10, which was the one that was airing at the time, and then kept doing that over the years and compounding my knowledge that way.
So you've just been watching whenever and however you feel like then.
Basically, I do this thing with shows where I will pick them up for a little while, and then my attention span is weird and ungodly and strange that I can sit there and watch, 4 or 5 seasons of a show. But the moment I get up and do something else,
You cannot return.
my brain is done with that show. It needs some other stimulus to keep going.
I fell into that show from I think the first season right to only season 7. So it's gonna be interesting to hear what you guys know. Table, how about when you get into the show?
I picked up Supernatural in junior high because I was one of those people. It would have been grade 8, I think. It was me and a friend,
Yeah.
and we watched Supernatural. We got really into it for a while,
Mhm.
and that would have been 7 years ago now.
Was that
Give or
right in the
take.
middle of Tumblr's Super Hulock adventure?
It might have been.
Hmm.
I admit to nothing,
I
but
see. You are recognized here.
I've been seen. I get it. But no,
Right.
so I did the whole fandom rigmarole with Supernatural,
Mm.
and I fell out of it a few years back, mostly just because the writing went downhill and I got angrier and angrier about it. But I've still kept pace with the happenings over the years because whether I like it or not, I am attached to these characters and I do care about how this ends.
Right.
That
So
was my thought also, with having 14 seasons and looking at it and go, oh my god, this is now a beast of a show.
But there's an
Man.
ending. There's an
But
actual
Now at this
honest-to-God
point in time,
ending.
the ending is nigh. When the world comes back together, it will end.
So in that case, so I'm about to ask you guys, educate us now. For those of us who never watched, or for those of us like me who fell off, what's been going on?
So we have brothers, oldest brother Dean, youngest brother Sam, and at very young ages, they see their mother burned alive by a demon. And
He being relative, Dean might have seen it. Sam was a literal infant, so while it was on his ceiling, memories.
Yeah.
right? So their mom burns to death. And this will not be the first time that this happens to her because, I don't know, writing, I guess.
Okay.
Supernatural becomes, over the years, incapable of leaving anyone dead. And I do mean anyone.
Oh, it falls prey to the comic book curse. No one stays dead forever, unless your uncle.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Comic book curse at least usually kills people once,
Mhm.
maybe twice.
Mhm.
And they come back and you're like, okay, this isn't good or reasonable, but I'll take it. Because,
Hi, we're the, I don't know.
characters.
Hi, we're the X-Men. We don't stay dead forever.
That's
Except
fair.
for in
That's fair.
Supernatural, at least one of the boys die every single season.
It's,
Every season.
Explain.
So season 1, Dean dies, but worked most 98% dies via electricity, causing him to have heart problems and a heart attack because he had to use electricity to kill a specific monster. Blah 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 blah.
Because
the
he
dad
likes
sells his soul
burgers
to save
too.
his life.
Okay.
Red season 2, Sam dies at the end, and Dean gets big upsetty about it, so he sells his soul to bring Sam back.
I remember this.
End of
Yeah.
season 3, Dean goes to hell because he sold his soul, and that's what happens.
I remember that
End
too.
of season 4. Actually, I don't know if anyone dies at the end of season 4, but people
I
die
remember.
during season 4, so that counts. End of season 5, Sam goes into hell forever, theoretically speaking, to
Yeah.
seal the devil and the Archangel Michael in a big timeout box as a no, don't do the apocalypse kind of thing. End of season 6 is, I believe, no. Dean goes to purgatory at the end of season 7, yeah?
Yeah, and then once we get into... No, I was pretty sure season 7 was Leviathan villains.
Yeah, no, but season 7 is Leviathan villains, which is why Dean goes to purgatory at the end, because when he like stabs the big master Leviathan, it opens a rift to purgatory, and he and
Yes,
Castiel
correct.
get yanked through. Does anyone noticeably die at the end of season 6?
Whatever happened to Bobby?
I don't think so.
Bobby?
So that season 6 might be, for that reason, great, even if it's
Oh yeah, I think we
actually
lose Bobby the
objectively not
first
very
time
good.
at the end of season 3.
First time. Oh, yeah, I remember that too now. Yeah.
Isn't that just where he gets like his spine broken or whatever?
Yeah, he ends up paralyzed, and then eventually he makes a deal and brings one of the boys back for questionable reasons. And then eventually we see him again, and then we see him one more time, but it's actually not really him. It's from a different dimension, but we'll get there.
So go on. So what's the clown of evil here? I remember they were after the man with the yellow eyes, and then I guess things were stuff must have escalated from there, right? Like what have they been killing? What have they been going after? What's been
Escalated's a good way to talk about it, because they start off with like, ghosts, occasional ghoul, general bogeyman types, and then eventually gets like, oh snap, actual vampires and demons. Those are real and causing problems. And then it escalates again to, who else causes problems? Angels. Angels cause problems. And it goes, who's worse than angels causing problems? Archangels causing problems. Who's worse than that? These weird things called Leviathan from basically just the worst place ever. Who's worse than that? More angels causing problems and demons as well, because why not? And so on and so forth.
So it keeps on like basically going up on the scales of like who can be worse than this person from the last time, and it goes up from there.
Absolutely 100,000%.
The thing is, though, because they jumped the gun and did the apocalypse, like biblical apocalypse, so we're clear, in seasons 4 and 5, what that means is they shot themselves in the foot by going too big. So they have to start either making stuff up or getting really weird, which is why we get stuff like God's sister, who is the villain for a season.
Sister.
What?
Okay.
So what
God's
is also
sister's
an appropriate
name
response?
Is Amara, and she is sealed with the mark of Cain, the mark that somebody gave actual Cain, like from Cain and Abel in the Bible.
God gave actual Cain.
That God gave actual Cain for killing his brother. And that is the seal that keeps Amara in the void, in the nowhere place. It's not
I think it's
heaven,
the empty
it's not
that she's
hell,
hanging
it's
out
not
in.
purgatory, it's none of the above, basically.
Yeah.
It's D. And so, like, Dean eventually gets the mark because a different plot reason.
Because there's a horrible big bad demon that they need to kill, but can only be killed with this one specific weapon, and you can only wield that weapon if you have the mark of Cain.
Right. And then the big bad demon at the end of the following season becomes Dean because the mark brought him back from the dead. So then he doesn't become a demon, he becomes a demon.
A demon.
Wait.
That's the official tag, by the way.
That's the official tag.
Like,
So the demon doesn't die, but he then absorbs Dean, or he I'm confused.
No, so the way supernatural demons work is normal people go to hell at some point, right? Like, well, all normal people go to hell. That's how that works. No, but if a human soul goes to hell, it will eventually become a demon over time, though time across the planes of reality varies.
Yeah.
So theoretically, just exposing a human soul to the right kind of corruption and twisting and torture or whatever can turn it into a demon. So the suggestion is that that's what happened to Dean.
Right, but because he is
did that like
being
alive
infected with the actual mark of the worst at that time, it corrupts him super fast, and so he dies, and then we don't know how much long time it takes. He instantly wakes up, and then we're in a new season.
Yeah. I believe he goes down punching God's librarian, yes?
Yeah, Metatron.
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that first off? Is
And
that
it's
a real
not
name?
his librarian; it's actually his scribe, the person who actually took the word of God, put it on a stone
And
tablet,
wrote it down. Yeah.
put it on a stone tablet for angels and archangels to follow, should God ever decide to leave.
Which, spoilers, totally did that.
Yeah, that's the gist I got from the entire of like where Dean was like, "Where's God now?" Blah 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 blah. I figured, someone checked out. So I guess do we ever solve that? Like, do we
Yes.
do we confront
God.
it?
God turns up, and to absolutely no one's surprise, spoilers, I guess, but realistically, we should have tagged or said spoilers at the
Spoiler
beginning.
alert the whole way.
This is all spoilers, yes. Chuck is God, because of course he is.
Right,
Okay.
No
so
one's even
Chuck was
surprised anymore.
a person that wrote the actual story of the boys
Yeah, okay, yeah.
and
So there's a
published
whole-
novels in universe.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are supernatural books in Supernatural's universe because of, quote, the prophet Chuck.
I remember him, yeah.
But-
Okay.
But Chuck's actually God.
And
God-
also played by country singer Rob Benedict.
Interesting.
So in a brief scene, he actually picks up an acoustic guitar and he sings. And it's actually Rob Benedict singing.
Oh my God.
Hilarious.
Okay. So season 15. What's been going on in season 15? What was the big lead up? Where are we going?
So, you know how I mentioned earlier that they went too big too early?
Okay.
They've tried to kind of crawl back on that by revisiting elements of the whole apocalypse storyline.
Okay.
Because, how do you get bigger, especially after you've removed God's sister from the story now?
Right.
And the answer to get bigger was actually to go back. So Lucifer is back in the storyline for a little while, though I believe he dies again. We've got Michael from a different reality who comes and possesses Dean so they can kill Lucifer for being
Like
a
the
jerk.
Archangel Michael.
Right, yeah. Okay.
We've got Lucifer's son, the Nephilim, who also dies because, again, no one lives, but no one stays dead either. I
Right.
think Jack dies like 2 or 3 times. the
And
Nephilim.
Jack, because of his human mother and actual Lucifer father, is the actual Antichrist.
Huh, okay.
Which is funny because they already did the Antichrist thing, but okay.
So they ran it
It's all back now, y'all.
Yeah, because in the first, I think it was in season 3,
Yeah.
they do a whole episode with this kid who his mom was possessed by a demon while pregnant with him
Mhm.
to make an Antichrist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
And so this
yeah.
kid literally goes and suddenly has all these powers and they have to save him from demons. And then they figure out, okay, so here's what happened and here's why you exist, quote unquote.
Mhm.
And then the kid decides that he's going to live in Australia away from all this nonsense and just disappears.
And
And
just
that's
exits the plot.
He leaves, stage left.
What did he Thanos blip himself out?
He blipped himself to Australia and we never hear from him again.
And now he
Huh.
lives with kangaroos.
Wow.
Oh, I mean,
That's it.
it's a conclusion.
But going into season 15, season 14 ends with just what amounts to dumb family politics with Lucifer, Jack, Lucifer's previous vessel, a guy named Nick, who really doesn't deserve all these bad things happening to him up until he's suddenly a dick for no reason.
Right, okay.
And then actual God turning up and telling them to kill something. But it ends with basically zombies. I don't know what to tell you.
Is this The Walking Dead now?
It's got a little something for everybody.
So the way this season, plot way ends is God gives Dean a gun that will kill anything, and he's supposed to shoot the thing, and instead he turns around and decides, God is my enemy, and
I will
shoots
shoot God.
and shoots God with the thing that it can kill anything.
Okay.
Allegedly.
But God shouldn't be able to be injured, and it can't kill God because you can't. So
Also because in a previous season, Death
Mhm.
tried this whole thing as well, giving Dean a look, you're causing so many problems and you need to be put in perma timeout forever and ever, but if Sam is still alive, he won't let it happen, so you have to kill Sam and then I'll put you in perma timeout so you can't hurt anybody. And they get within 5 centimeters of doing it, and then Dean straight up kills Death, so we have a different person as Death now because Dean killed the old one. These all-powerful beings know better than to give Dean a weapon that can kill them now, because he will do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
basically, these supernatural gods are just hey, you know what? We need you to do something. You're going to get this weapon that can kill literally anything in the universe. And then they're like, oh, wait, what are you doing? I gave you this something to kill these things.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, basically. What usually
That happens
happens is
multiple
one
times.
faction goes to Sam, one
Uh-huh.
faction goes to Dean, and
Yeah.
eventually they meet in the middle, and then both boys turn around and fight both.
Yes.
Wow. So it's literally just like a, you thought plot twist. Like,
Yeah.
Actually, for real.
oh my god.
But like because God didn't die and God is generally peeved about even the attempt to shoot him,
Jeez.
we get zombies because he decides maybe we will do the apocalypse.
Wow. The literal Walking Dead is now upon us.
Well,
Great.
No, the literal Walking Dead is the other universe.
Oh,
Yeah.
true.
Utterly whack.
Damn.
But this comes back to the whole issue with how do you get bigger? And the answer was you don't get bigger than the end of the world. You can't go over that. So they had to spend basically 4 seasons building back to where they could do that again, but like different this time.
Okay.
I believe the actual true on apocalypse has happened 3 times. Once was the actual biblical like war, pestilence,
Yeah.
plague, like
The horseman, yeah.
all
yeah,
the
okay.
4 horsemen. And then other ones were, oh, suddenly all the angels from heaven have now dropped to earth because it was supposed to complete these 3 seals, and somebody else did
And we
it, and then
didn't.
they fucked it up.
Oh, okay.
But they've done an okay job with their various trying to keep the stakes high, though they certainly haven't done a wonderful job of it every time. But I'm still personally of the opinion that they could have stopped after season 5, and it would have been a bit of a tragic ending, but it would have been a really good one.
Yeah, because now we are stuck, and we now know the trope, and we are so stuck in this trope that if one brother lives, the other one will come back somehow, some way.
Mhm.
That the assumed way of ending the series is you need both gone.
They both have to be dead. And they can't be dead as in, oh, they die and go to heaven, because they've done that and they literally left.
They walked
No
out.
way.
They straight up left.
They're like, hey, God, F you. We're getting out of this. Peace.
And you can't send them to purgatory because purgatory is actually just full of monsters and it doesn't like having human beings in it, so it will spit them back out onto Earth, which was a whole plot line. You can't send them to hell because then you just have them as demons, which is still not a solution to the problem of them existing.
Yeah.
There is this whole place called the Empty, which is apparently where those who get like
Which is the D
super
option?
duper smoted out. Yeah, that's D. And maybe if they both end up in D, they'll go the heck away. But I'm not really confident in that.
Right. So
Like,
they
at
tried to
this point-
send the Antichrist to D, and the D was like, how about it just give you extra powers and kick you out?
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Like, at this point, you gotta go full on, how do you kill an unkillable monster? Well, you gotta rip it to pieces, you gotta burn all the bits, you gotta take the ashes, and you gotta, like, pour them into separate rivers on every continent on the globe, and maybe it will stay dead.
Okay.
Maybe.
Jesus.
So we've been talking all these characters, and one character we have not included is Castiel.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
And now bringing up Castiel, we need to bring up what some of the fandom has decided to do with Castiel and both boys. And I think Table, being our Tumblr expert at the time, can give us more of a deep dive into what that looks like.
So, everyone is familiar with fandom's obsession with slash shipping, yes?
Yes.
Yes, of course, yeah.
And now here's the thing, okay? So, fandom will ship something regardless of who exists within the property. That's how you get stuff like that whole Onceler bullshit, where people were creating alternate universe versions of that character from the Lorax to ship with himself, because they need something to ship, and they will make it happen no matter what. Putting this in the context of Supernatural is not great, because for the first 4 seasons, you know the only 2 characters who are in every episode?
Sammy.
Sam and Dean.
Yeah.
Beastie, what's their
So-
relation?
Isn't that incest?
Yeah,
Well, worse. In fact, it's Wincest.
That's
That-
no.
that's the name. That's the name of that ship. It's bad. So, with the introduction of Castiel, who wasn't quite a series regular for a long time, but was a very frequent guest star, another human being, relatively speaking, because Angel, but
Right.
another person who has like a relationship with these two characters and does things and stuff and exists regularly and also exhibits the same inability to stay dead. Well, fandom went in the ways it will and created the bigger ship Destiel, which has caused a lot of shame upon everyone who's been associated with it, frankly.
Okay.
It's truly
And-
like ringing the shame bell 4 or 5 times forever.
Yeah. And Sastiel, which is the opposing ship of Sam and Castiel that didn't really take off in any big way until about season 9, because for a long time, Cass and Sam just really didn't talk to each other much.
Right.
Yeah, they were too busy being men of letters. And then finding out that there is a British Men of Letters, which I still argue is a worse title than the first one,
Okay.
because nobody
Yeah.
would call themselves the British Men of Letters. They would just call themselves that, except we are British.
We are the British branch of the Men of Letters. Yes, that would make more
Right,
sense.
But that is not how they
alas.
speak it aloud.
But
They call
alas.
themselves the British Men of Letters.
Okay.
Ridiculous.
It's
Wow.
very ridiculous.
My
And
brain.
also, they just are really unpleasant for no reason.
Yeah,
Dude.
honestly, they're just really rude to everybody.
Question to you: Jeffrey Dean Morgan played Daddy Winchester. What was his name again?
John Winchester.
John Winchester.
Terrible dad.
Does he ever come back? Does he make an appearance before?
4 or 5
Yeah.
times, and they Back to the Future it.
Wait.
They do Back to the
How
Future.
does that happen?
What?
Okay, so during the apocalypse,
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
One of 4.
one of 4, the original one,
Sure.
the
Okay.
seasons
The
3
biblical
to
one.
5 apocalypse. Yeah,
You mean the 4
Um,
horsemen of the apocalypse, right?
Yes.
yeah, that one.
Uh,
The angels they're like, we're gonna fuck with Dean because that's a whole part of the greater plan here,
no.
and
The
in an
greater
attempt to force
plan.
him into like understanding that you can't change the way things are quote meant to be, they
Right.
send him back in time and are like, do something. They do not tell him what, so he wanders around, meets his dad, is like, hello, what's up? Meets his mom, discovers her whole personal backstory, and
Okay.
has to go through a whole thing where he discovers how his mom made the deal with the demon from the first season that got her killed in the first place, and he tries and fails to save her from that.
Right.
But that's not the only time it happens.
Okay.
Also, Jeffrey Dean Morgan gets resurrected at one point for
Okay.
like a day, just cause. I think that was season 13.
Okay.
Pretty sure. So, what we haven't explained is what the boys actually do. So, yeah, both boys, right, Sam and Dean, are both men of letters. Well, because there's none left, so I guess they are. They exist in their bunker for a while.
Okay.
Dad was also a man of letters, but when it was actually active. And Mom was what's called a hunter.
Fake. You're wrong.
Oh,
Red, you're interfering with yourself. You've accidentally crossed the wires.
have
Uh,
I?
Yeah, John Winchester is by blood a man of letters, but he never was in actuality because his father, who was a man of letters both in blood and actively, went off on a quest or whatever and was killed by Abaddon, the demon from season 12, who had
Yep, that sounds
who
right. Yep.
is the reason for the Mark of Cain nonsense because they needed the first blade to kill her, blah blah blah. And so John was never a man of letters because he didn't know. He was just a bog standard hunter whose wife died in a horrible accident and decided he was going to dedicate his life to killing the creatures of the night, and then he was going to drag his 2 young sons along with him. So
Right,
Sam and Dean were
the family
raised as
business.
normal hunters. It's just that later on they find out about the whole men of letters heritage, and they kind of take over the bunker because God knows they need a place to live after well over a decade wandering
God
around
doesn't.
in a
He's
car
over
all
there
the
eating
time.
French fries, singing country songs.
Right. Okay.
And they do kind of pick up the whole methodology, sort of the Men of Letters. They use
And
their
give it a
research,
big
they
ol'
use their
hunter twist.
resources. Yeah. Because Men of Letters were generally a little bit more academic focused, where they're a lot more grounded in general.
Okay.
But they were not raised as Men of Letters, and I will fight you on that, Red. I will.
This is correct, but to give the heritage backstory of what both parents did, it's good to know that they were both hunters, and
By
made,
like long lines.
yeah, and that's just the thing the families did. And
Okay.
Sam and Dean, being from that heritage, just carried on exactly the family business.
Okay.
Though
Saving
Sam
people,
did
hunting
try to
things.
go to law school.
All
He
right.
also tried to spend a year alone by himself, or well, with a partner, but that didn't work out so well.
And a dog.
And a
He had a
dog.
dog.
And it's all coming to an end pretty. So who's the final evil here?
It appears to be God, actually.
Okay.
Again.
The final evil is God.
Again.
Officially,
We're going full anime on this.
All right. It's the Winchesters have gone the Japanese RPG life, right? First mission is find my kitty. Last mission is fight God.
Well, the first mission was actually kidnap your brother because your dad has just buggered off into the abyss, and you want to
Dad,
find
this
what's
also
up with
dad
that.
went to go get smokes and didn't come back.
Yeah.
Locate
Damn.
brother, find father. Last mission, fight God. There you go.
And
That
here's
was
the
how we
game.
got-
Jeez.
was no well, because that's the whole thing about the first season is it's based off the one line from the pilot Dad went hunting and hasn't been back in a while, or hasn't been home for a few days.
Right.
And that's the entire first season's premise for the most part.
Right, yeah.
And then to end with the I guess we've got to kill God for real though.
Mhm.
Especially after God nearly died in a previous season, and that was bad. Like, that had dire consequences for the universe. So
But
I have
now the-
questions
right,
about how
now
they're going to
the-
resolve this.
Now they actively want to actually just kill this guy.
Yeah, because, like, the whole problem with God's sister, Amara, was that she nearly did kill him. Like, she kicked his ass and said, actually, no, you don't get to die quite yet. I want you to watch me destroy everything you've ever made or cared about. Which, power move, I guess. But
And then they both tried to fade off into nothingness, and then the Winchesters screwed it up again.
She's like, oh, look at me. I'm going to destroy your anthill. Look at this. Your stupid ant farm.
he built a block tower of Babel, and she
Yeah.
decided, fuck that.
Understood.
But no, Mary Winchester doesn't stay dead. Their mom, because of course not.
Well, from what you guys have been telling me, no one stays dead. So
Absolutely no one. 0 people.
I understand.
Unless you're in the first 5 minutes of an episode,
Mhm.
you don't stay dead.
Right.
Those people die.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
people
Those
died
people die.
extra dead.
Unless you're this week's victim.
Yeah,
to-
basically.
The plot to push plot.
Unless you're showing exactly what a Wendigo does to somebody.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you know who is still dead and I'm mad about?
Kevin?
Kevin Tran.
Yeah, Kevin Tran.
He's an earthbound spirit, which is not the same as alive.
Okay.
He was so Kevin Tran. The thing is, right, that the way prophets work is that in times of great whatever, a prophet gets appointed to record and keep notes on the current situation.
Yeah.
And when Chuck stopped pretending to be Chuck and started just being God and disappearing into the ether again,
Right.
a new prophet needed to be named. So that prophet was Kevin Tran, just a guy in school. He was an AP student, kind of stressed out, and suddenly started having visions and got kidnapped by demons and was doing his best, his very, very best.
Okay.
And he ended up living with the Winchesters because, what else do you do with this poor bastard? And he was great. He was wonderful. He was cool. And then he gets murdered by an angel that Dean has put into or talked into possessing Sam so that Sam doesn't die horribly because a whole bunch of plot reasons.
Okay. Huh.
I've never forgiven them for this.
Understood.
So, fun fact, the person that plays Kevin is also the person that plays a person who is the second Adam, and he was in Crisis.
Second Adam. Ryan, is it Ryan? The character Ryan Choi?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that. I think that guy was isn't he not a former Power Ranger for that matter too?
I do not
Is
believe
he?
so.
I could have swore he was.
He might have been on Power Rangers, but I don't believe he was. I believe you're crossing the wires. But now that gives you a picture in your head on who we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Right on.
There's actually only like 2 or 3 blogs I still follow on Tumblr that are Supernatural associated at all, and one of them is called "Is Kevin Tran Back from the Dead Yet?" And every day it does an update. Today's update was day 2348. Kevin Tran is an earthbound spirit now.
Wow.
And the last image we see of Kevin Tran is his eyes burned.
That's what happens when an angel kills you. They smite the hell out of you. Literally.
That's terrible.
And fun fact, you can make an angel a human by taking away its grace.
Yeah. They've got superpowers and you can just kind of yoink. Though it's more akin to sticking a hole in a tree and draining all the sap, I guess.
Mhm.
If sap was magic.
Okay.
And it happens to Castiel like 2 or 3 times.
Oh my god, it happens so many times. And like there's a whole plot point where he's losing his grace because he's rebelling against heaven. That happens for ages, and it's a whole thing where it's like they're going up against bigger and badder angels, and the only angel on their team is slowly running out of power, which was cool. That was a cool point. And then it gets to the point where he gets exploded by another angel. I believe, was it Lucifer that straight up pops him like a balloon?
I'm pretty sure.
The graveyard
I'm
fight?
pretty sure.
Yeah. So that happens. He gets straight up exploded. And then literal God resurrects him with full superpowers again. And that's fine for a while until he starts losing his grace again for more plot reasons. And eventually he starts eating it out of other angels, which is just all sorts of cannibalism, really. It's yikes.
Right on. Okay, so thoughts. How do you guys want this whole thing to end? How do you guys want this show to end? How do you?
It's not really how we want this show to end. Is how it has to end. It has to end.
They have to die.
Okay.
Both brothers have to die, and Castiel needs to go back to whatever his original angel duties are.
Right. Okay.
Because after
he could die too.
He totally could. You know, he could get smited the shit out of, and we'd be. I mean, we wouldn't be okay with it because we like him, but like,
pop him like a balloon again.
Yes, completely.
You sound like you want him to be
or like you could
smited.
take away his grace and leave him as a human.
Oh, he'd be so sad.
No, he'd be Steve, and
he worked
he'd
in
be
a gas
all
station.
over again.
It was really pathetic.
Yeah, he was Steve. He changed his name to just Steve.
No, we can't let him
He
be
had a name
Steve.
tag and everything.
No.
He did laundry.
You.
In a laundromat.
They made a pop Funko of it.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
I
boys
just
have
like
to die.
Castiel. I'd rather see Castiel.
Yeah, both boys need to die.
Mm-hmm.
Like, send them to the empty. I mean, okay, here's the thing. In terms of theoretical happy quote-unquote endings, if we wound back a few seasons, back where they were a little bit less ridiculously codependent, because here's the thing. The show has made jokes about their codependency for forever, but it didn't actually hit, like, completely unworkable levels until the last 4 or 5 seasons. Because previously, like, when Dean went to Purgatory, Dean was in Monster Heaven for, like, what was it, 7 months?
Yeah, something
like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Enough
so
of a
he's
time
running
skip
around
that they don't look different. Yep.
Yeah. He's just running around actively killing things constantly all the time for about 7 months trying to find a way out. Sam gets a girlfriend. He gets a dog. He gets a life. That could have been a happy ending because here's the thing. It's mentioned several times over the seasons that Dean low-key regrets ever leaving Purgatory. So just send him back.
Right on.
Like, let him do that for forever and let Sam have a real life. But because they've gotten so deeply entrenched in their own bullshit, frankly.
So hyperinflated, too.
Right.
Yeah. That there's no way to pull them apart like that again. Not really. Or not in any way that you can believably say these characters would let happen. So, stake them. Stake them for trees. Leave them as warnings for writers who can't leave well enough alone.
This is your lesson. No one to quit when you're ahead.
Yeah, quit when you have a good ending. Otherwise, you force yourselves to write a tragedy because there's nothing else you can do.
Not much.
There's no happy ending for these boys anymore. There just isn't.
The fun part about Supernatural ending is it has created a backdoor pilot called The Wayward Sisters
Okay.
Ooh.
that follows two of our characters, the daughter of
Yes.
the daughter of Jimmy Novak, who is actual like Castiel's vessel. The angel
Okay.
Castiel got invited into the body of Jimmy Novak, and Jimmy Novak had a daughter, and she, along with another character who is the mom from Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
Okay.
Yeah, Jody Miller.
There you go.
Sheriff Jody Miller.
Sheriff
Okay.
Jody Miller. Let's not forget that.
Okay.
And they continue what the brothers have shown them.
Oh, okay.
Well, they go, whereas the brothers have now escalated to, if it's not trying to end the world, it's not really our problem.
Yeah.
They stick back with, actually, we are just hunting things, please and thanks.
Yeah, we're hunting ghouls and vampires and wendigos and
Simple
you know.
things.
Things that will kill people if left unchecked.
Okay. Right on.
So if we get this nice little spin-off series, that'd be cool. But we did get a sneak peek at this spin-off series through a recent episode of Legends of Tomorrow.
Okay.
And in fact, they go to the woods. We see the Wayward Sister main cast. They go into the woods. They see the car, the 1967
Chevrolet Impala.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Impala, and the theme song from every episode of Supernatural plays a couple of its notes to indicate this is the reality we're in.
Okay. Right on.
So now Supernatural is a part of the DC expanded universe.
I have opinions on that, but we're going to just put those all in a box and throw it out a window.
Yeah, for
Because
another-
DC did it too.
Yeah, which is bizarre.
So they literally just were like, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do with this universe. Put it together." But people were just like, "We'll leave it on the side, though."
Yeah.
Damn.
Right
Yeah.
on.
So with all of that, do you guys see yourselves like possibly picking up the 15th season to see how this
Well, look, I
wild
can tell you
derby
right now-
ride comes to a crashing end?
Well, I can tell you right now, if it's coming to an end, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty much guaranteeing that they're Netflix and all that's going to have it up at some point, right? So
Actually, it's got taken off Canadian Netflix. It's no longer on there at all.
really no.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I tried
think
to look
it's
for it. The
on
only
Prime
place
now?
I can find it, is Amazon.
I do have it on Amazon Prime and I believe Tubi as well, so I'll have to check it out. Yeah, I could probably tune in once it's all done and everything. I like to start it all over again and catch up, as they say.
I will also say that if you don't want to like watch all 15 straight, there are several points where it's comfortable to end for a little while, where you can kind of get to the end and go, okay, this was a well-contained story. I can put this down and pick it up later.
Okay.
So for that, I would recommend at the end of season 3, the end of season 5, the end of season 7, and then kind of the end of season 10.
Okay.
Kind of.
Yeah, you might want to
But
start
no.
9 and then go into 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just to give you on
season-
who the
Yeah.
heckity heck, which way's
Yeah.
north, like.
The
Yeah.
the machete
the,
method.
the later seasons just start bleeding into each other too hard. So it
Right.
becomes very difficult to say, yes, you can stop here. Whereas the earlier seasons, they wrote arcs, they wrote stories.
Yeah.
And so it was neater, we'll call it.
Okay. All right. And I guess that brings us to us now.
Yeah,
And
I
there we
heard the
go.
word bizarre thrown around.
Yeah.
I am also aware of some other characters who are having a bizarre adventure. Care to tell us about them?
Yes.
So we're talking me and Beastie. We're talking JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Mhm.
This started way back in 1987, manga format. It's still in print to this very day, 2020. 2 different magazines, but that's a whole different story for another day as well. We're going to start off by giving just a good old brief synopsis of what exactly JoJo's Bizarre Adventure really is. To say the least, it's really the most bizarre adventure you're going to come across. Each of the series' 8 protagonists is a member of the Joestar family in some way or form. They all have a star-shaped birthmark on their body. All that comes into play from, I believe, part 3 onward. It's some crazy stuff. We're going to start off with the first one. Part 1's called Phantom Blood. This was written back in 1987. It's been recently animated back, I believe, 2012, I want to say. Starts in late 19th century, I believe, England, with the very first Joestar, Jonathan, as he confronts shit Lord Dio. As Dio rises to power, becomes an eternal evil through means of a stone mask. Beastie, take it away.
From there, we then meet up a man named William Zappelli, who basically teaches this like essence breathing, which is called Haman. And to fight this, I guess, monster Dio, as we know him, William teaches him how to enable this Haman and like learn Haman, so then he's able to fight him. Then with that, he goes on to meeting these other masters of the Haman method. They meet up to where Dio's hiding out with his little minions and his little monster guys, just, you know, killing villagers out of nowhere for, you know what, like, because he can and he just wants to. Then, yeah, from there, the masters try to fight Dio. Dio's like, dude, no, you can't. That Jonathan is able to, you know, be smart enough willingly and just, like, essentially kill him, in a sense, or at least behead him.
The thing with Jonathan, he's probably the most vanilla of the Joestars, the most stoic. He's pretty much the epitome of your hero good guy. He trains hard. He's the Goku. He trains hard, doesn't lose. You know what I mean? But his whole run in Phantom Blood is something to say because he picks up Haman, which is, like he said, you know, breathing, which allows you to harness UV power, pretty much, powered by the sun. It harms all those that are supernatural beings. Only a very particular few can harness this power. What else am I missing there, Beastie?
That's the main gist of it, really, like, of what happens there.
And that stone mask, we got to jump into that, what that is, right? So
not essentially, no. I think it's a little bit more touched upon the next part, but we'll be getting to that anyways.
So yeah, I think I've only watched a handful of episodes, as these boys have been introducing me to their most favorite series, and the character that I have found a real affinity with is Mr. REO Speedwagon.
That's the best boy.
See now, wait, see, like that's like the Yamcha,
and that's okay. People can like Yamcha. We just observe that he's not very strong and he's fine. But
you know what though, I am gonna put it there that the thing with Speedwagon is, even though he went into that whole situation, especially the one night run of Jonathan versus Dio, Speedwagon went in there knowing that he could be killed, but he still went forward with them, which is to say something about that character, right? Like full
makes
fear.
him very honorable.
Yeah, but he still went to see it end, right? Like he was there for the very end. And even though he may not be able to do much, he'd attempt to do something to help Jonathan out. I can't really say Speedwagon wouldn't do anything because, like,
right, Yamcha versus Cell. What are you gonna do?
That's the thing, right? But he still put up something. Like,
so
Speedwagon would try.
With the comparison of Speedwagon, I'd put him more as like a Krillin, if anything, because like, you know, in the sense of like where the comparison of like Yamcha is like, yeah, he's like a little bit nimble, but like with more to with part one in that fight, and when he was trying to fight Dio the first time, he was more Krillin, and he like kind of stood up and was like, "Okay, I'm gonna try my best, even though I could get murdered, but you know, I'll do my best."
My thing is, because he fights Jonathan once, and then he's just like, "Man, this guy's fucking epic."
Yeah.
And then after that, we never see Speedwagon fight again, which to me, Krillin over the course of Dragon Ball has gone into many fights, knowing that he could possibly be killed. Speedwagon was just like, well, shit, I'm not doing this. My hat's dumb. I'm not gonna do this.
I can't do anything with this.
It's cool, but this dude's forearm stopped it. Like, I'm done though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for me, Speedwagon is very much the Yamcha, man.
Fair enough.
But that's okay.
That part one, Phantom Blood, does end on a tragic note. We do lose Jonathan.
Mm-hmm.
But it does lead into
R.I.P. JoJo 1.
And it leads into part two, which is one of my favorites, Battle Tendency. And this one propels the story forward because each JoJo takes place in a different era of time. So this one takes place in, I believe, late 1940s. We're in the middle, I believe, mid-1940s. I think we're about to end the Second World War. We're getting there. So we still have Nazi occupancy around the world. It starts off in New York City with Joseph Joestar, which is one of my favorite Joestars. He has no skill set whatsoever. The guy is kind of lazy, but a little talented. And his journey takes him across.
So before you continue that train of thought, you say we lost the first JoJo.
Yeah.
How did we get the second JoJo if the first one's dead?
So that gets explained in part two. At the very end of part one, we lose Jonathan on a burning boat. We lose him to Dio. Before that, though, Jonathan had married to, what's her name again? Irene?
I thought it was Irina or something like that.
Irina, yeah, that's the one. And they have their child, George. George does not have any Haman talent whatsoever. It skips a generation for him. and it goes on to his son being Joseph. And Joseph's story, he comes up with Grandma Arena. As Joseph lost both his parents, George being killed by a follower of Dio, and his mom going missing. But that gets explained later on as well. Mm-hmm. Joseph's story takes him from the early development of New York City right through to Europe as he meets others and in the skill of Haman. And he takes on the Pillarmen, which are Dio times like 4. And the big one of them all being Cars is probably the big bad. If there wasn't Dio, it would have been Cars. Cars would have been the big shit. Honestly, he is something else, and his journey to power is crazy, and what he becomes is even more scary. And the fact that Joseph beats it just shows you the difference between Jonathan's like skill with strength and Joseph's nimble mind. He's a trickster, so he likes to think outside the box, and he wins by thinking outside the box, which is kind of crazy. Beastie, take that away.
Yeah, going along that too, the reason why these Pillarmen are essentially resurrected is because of, like, I guess you could say the next special artifact of that, I guess, time or have been discovered.
Our next MacGuffin.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, we never really dove into that too. So basic theme of JoJo is there's always going to be a big bad looking for an artifact. An artifact's going to give you some type of badass power.
And with part 2's was I think the pronunciation is Asia Stone or the Aja Stone?
That's the one, Asia.
Yeah, Asia. Okay. So yeah, they basically get this like Asia Stone, which and you got to correct me on this, Shino, but I believe the power of the stone is basically harnessed from the sun, and basically was able to give you unlimited power, but
like Sunny D.
Like Sunny D. For the red heart of Asia to work, right, red stone, it comes in 2 parts. So you have to have the stone mask, the same one that Dio had beforehand. There's a couple left. There's not just one, there's multiple. You have to have your power activated by the mask first, which is phase 1. Then you have to get the red heart of Asia and have to have that powered by UV light enough to power up your body to get to the next step. Cars does.
Yeah. Basically, Joseph is fighting these other Pillarmen along the way, and he's just like, well, I gotta get strong enough to fight Cars, so then I can stop him from using the stone. Which, aka, he still gets the stone either way, and this man becomes essentially invincible. But like how Shino had mentioned as well, with his outside of the box thinking, he, by sheer luck too, freaking beats Cars.
Yep, beats a god. And this is part 2 is the beginning of Araki's, Hirohiko Araki, the creator, is beginning his obsession with naming characters after bands and artists. So the Pillarmen were each named after a certain artist. You had Santana, ECDC, Cars, Wamu.
REO Speedwagon from before.
REO Speedwagon. It all starts. Zeppeli is short for Zeppelin. It all really comes together in part 2. With the end of part 2, and it ends on a note where you figure, it's never going to come back. It's pretty much done here, right? But then we get a little, if you like to call it, a post-credit scene, which shows a crew on the seas looking for stuff. Treasure hunting, if you will.
Looking for the Grand Line.
And they pull up a giant...
with a straw hat.
Wrong anime.
Looking for that one piece.
Oh,
they pull out this giant casket that reads Dio on it, and then from there we get led into part 3, which then shows old man Joseph, and he arrives to an airport in Tokyo to go meet his grandson because shit has happened again. Part 3 is called Stardust Crusaders. This one's probably the most popular one, to be honest with you. This is the one that everybody talks about.
This is the one the memes are from.
This is the one that memes are from. This in part 5.
The memes?
Memes even.
The memes?
The memes.
Exactly.
But part 3 is one of the longest running ones. Started, I believe, back in 1989 and wrapped up in 92, which is pretty long for a manga. Well, for some mangas, unless you're talking about One Piece and Dragon Ball, which go on forever. This one takes place years later, back in 1989. Dio has been reawakened. He's been hit with a stand arrow, which is a new artifact we'll get to, which now gives the power of stands, which is probably the most popular thing out of the whole series. Stands, I'll let Beastie explain that in a couple of seconds here, but the journey takes Joseph to Tokyo to get his grandson Jotaro, get him, ready to take on a bizarre adventure. We got to face Dio again. Joseph's daughter Holly, Jotaro's mom, she has a stand, but the way stands work is so bizarre. But the way stands work is you got to have a fighting spirit for it to latch onto you. If you don't have one, your stand can actually kill you. Holly's too much of a nice soul. She's never been violent in her entire life. She's too kind, so her stand starts killing her, and you need to find out how to stop it and why.
So if you're not down to throw down, you are super screwed.
You are
Yeah.
then down to clown.
Exactly.
Exactly.
You are down to clown by default.
Yeah.
So their journey takes them all the way from little island of Japan right now to Egypt, where they got to take on Dio. This was the huge one. Beastie, go ahead.
For this one, essentially, again, how stands or what stands are, it's like a spiritual power or like the spiritual essence, as Shino explained. But in a sense of like summarized explanation of how stands came to be, you remember how we mentioned that Dio came back, right? So
Yeah.
when we found that casket, you'll see it in the anime, but he basically has a new body, and with that body connected, he was able to use stand arrow as well, and it basically manifested the spirits, the stand spirits. And so there's a whole lot of things, and that's why Holly's kind of a bit more affected, but people are like awakening to it too. So it goes like a bit more deeper into the situation.
It gets into depth, the real depth, what the world's dealing with when it comes down to stands. It turns out that stands and Haman are kind of hand in hand. As it seems, Haman was made to counter anybody powered by a stone mask, but that's as far as it gets. Well, that and the Red Stone of Asia. The arrows now, the stand arrows are the super buff that you want to get to add on to your character, make you uber good.
It'd be like an evolved form.
So that stand arrow, all these artifacts come from pretty much a asteroid that slammed to Earth years ago. It was mined by the, I think, Aztec people, and they created the stone mask, the Red Heart of Asia, the bow, the stand arrows. I think there's 3 or 4 arrows actually, to be for that matter.
Roughly, I think the minimum was 4.
I think it was 4, yeah. I think 3 or 4. I could be wrong. I gotta pull up a picture because I remember seeing the old witch with I think 6 at some point. So I gotta pull that back up. But there's a couple of arrows. They all do the same thing. They give you stand powers if your body can handle it. There are hacks of getting stand powers, which I can get into when we start talking part 4. You have anything else to add to part 3?
Well, with part 3, as was mentioned, as they're trying to save JoJo's mother, Holly, they go on to this around the world in 80 days trip to find Dio and kick some ass. But doing so, they do encounter more Dio's like stand minions, so other people that have acquired stand abilities in sense. And so you'll hear a lot of either musical reference or band name references, like character names. So it's going to be like a lot of here and there that you'll hear these random names. But also these powers also will be very interesting. So
for part 3, more stands were named after like the tarot cards. The characters are more named after band members and artists. Polnareff, Mohammed Abdul being named after Paul Abdul. This one was huge, man. The first 3 adventures were kind of grand in scheme. Part 4 brings it back to a simple town, Morio. We follow Josuke now, Higashikata, to explain how he's a JoJo, because the names all come down to being Higashikata in Japan. When written in the, I believe, is it kanji, I want to say?
I believe it was kanji or hiragana. It was one of the two.
Once it's written like that, it can be translated as Joe. So that's how they play JoJo off of Josuke's last name. This one is just about a teenage boy. He pretty much stumbles upon a murder mystery of a local serial killer who keeps the hands of his victims. Beastie, go ahead.
My god, it's Handy Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, in a sense, like this whole murder mystery is like what you would say, like the more bizarre adventure of a Scooby-Doo adventure. It's just, powers are involved and such. But this whole situation is also involving the stand arrow. So with starting from part 3 and onwards, you'll more or less get involved with stand arrows. So part 4 involves the stand arrow and this guy that they meet, or this murderer, Hira Yoshikage, I believe is his name. So this guy's just like freely murdering mostly women out of nowhere, just because like he can and because he finds like art in it or whatever. Like
here we go, murdering again.
Like he has this weird fetish for it, but yeah, and
fact, he's designed after David Bowie.
Yes. So when you see him, he does like have a uncanny resemblance to like David Bowie. Even his like, say like his character representation, like it's just a little bit odd, but it's still decently good. He has his stand ability as well. The stand name for it is called Killer Queen, which makes a lot of references for those songs. But yeah, with his stand, he's like basically able to just like explode or like do like a detonation ability. So he can kill
so he's got those eyes like a laser beam.
No, not necessarily, but
No.
he can plant a mine on you and light you up.
Yeah, exactly. There's in a sense to like what he would do. Like for example, what happens in the anime, like he touches like maybe just a latch on a purse. He can make that active and ready to go whenever he wants to detonate it, and then it just explode once he hits a switch per se. Is how it works. So when he does it with like his murder victims.
Mhm.
He can just touch, I guess, the woman's like arm or something like that, kill them on the spot, and then just the hand for some weird reason.
Yep.
Because he just has the hand and keeps it until he finds another beautiful hand that he wants.
Killer Queen detonates to the point where nothing's left behind. It's literally you're not even paste, you're smoke, you're dust. No way to clean your body, and there's no way to
You literally bite the dust.
the dust.
Yeah. An interesting thing. But from that situation, how the group gets involved is one of their, I guess, I don't know if it would say fellow classmates, but one of their like fellow members of the group gets killed off when basically Kira's just like, oh, someone's gonna find out my secret. Can't have this happen.
He finds out
Kills.
Shigechi.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Shigechi.
Oh my god, that's so sad. But
So, I was just wondering, in general, like, finish this thought, but I would love to hear what you think about how JoJo handles character death once you finish plot summarizing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Go ahead, finish that off.
so for part 4, they how it works with Shugechi, he gets killed off the group. Then it's like, yo, what happened? How did he die? And we got to figure this out. And then one of the, I guess you could say, the spirits that are still lingering around is someone actually connected to Kira, and they're like, okay, we got to find this guy. We got to see what we can do, and we got to put an end to him. And so Josuke and the gang, the Midio gang, basically, come together. They're like, okay, we got to do everything we can, find him in any ways possible, and kill this bastard.
Yeah, end him off.
Yeah.
Yeah, to answer your question there, Table, death in JoJo is definitive. There's no coming back from it.
They don't pull no comic book resurrections.
You know, unless you're by a character who has the means of like healing. Other than that, there's no coming back from death. Death is a defining moment in JoJo. Each time it happens, you feel it. Araki's a bastard for giving you characters that you fall in love with, and he takes them right away, and he'll do it with no shame.
They died good deaths.
They die
That make narrative sense.
Ones. There's some of them where it's just like it's like it's an epic last stand. Some of it is just like because death could come and get you at any point, and there's no control over it, right? Sometimes it just happens, and it's not as glorious, and you're just like shit. It just happened. And deal with that too. There's been some clear defining moments. Caesar being one. Caesar's death was the one that hits me pretty hard.
Caesar.
Yeah, every time I see that one kills, man. Abdul is another one.
Yo, part
3 hurt, but I know part 3 hurts.
part 3 just hurts in general.
Part 5, man, part 5 hurts too. They take some guys from you as that journey because they're like that journey. The death toll happens like midway, and it doesn't stop at that point, and then it takes a pause, and when we get to right to the very end, fucking everybody starts getting wiped out, man, one after the other. Part 5 is epic for that too. Like yeah, when it hits you, man. It's some of it's sad, some of it's like, oh my god, it had to happen, man. Yeah, that's the best I can describe that. But that brings us to probably part 5, because part 5 is just another good example of that as well, because the gang, Passion gang, man. Once we get to where was it they were headed to off to again?
In part 5?
Yeah.
So what it was, how part 5 works, or how it's introduced, is that you basically meet this young, or the next JoJo.
Giorno, right? Like, yeah, we have Giorno, we have a return of Koichi, who comes to just out on Joro's behalf, right?
Yeah.
Follow Giorno's journey to become top mafia boss. And
he's going to become Hokage?
The very best.
Yeah, exactly.
No ever was.
You want to be king of the pirates if you didn't know, but
yeah. Giorno is son of Dio. I'm not going to explain how that happens, but you're going to figure that out once you guys get into it.
Does that mean Dio fucks?
Stable? Dio fucks.
Oh, from what you guys have explained, Dio doesn't fuck. He yucks.
I don't like that pronunciation.
but it's true.
But
he yucks.
He yucks, and he fucks pretty good.
As soon as you see his animation, like stylization, you wouldn't be surprised that he does. Like,
I'd be surprised if he didn't. But yeah, his son Giorno Giovanna, not his actual original birth name. He chose to change his name to that. Right? It's just because he wants to become a gangster, wants to join the mafia to
become a gangstar.
Become a gangstar,
as they call it. Yeah.
To that's another musical reference right there. He wants to kind of clean up the mafia and make it more of a reputable service.
rather than having the drugs being like
Being peddled to
handed
kids
out.
and such, right?
Yeah, exactly, because that was the main issue of
Main
it,
issue.
essentially. Like
Um,
the drugs were being on the streets, and they're like, "Hey, we need to clean this up, and I need to figure how to do so."
Now, the entire mafia is composed of stand users, every last one of them. Top dog being Diavolo,
Hmm.
and he's the one with King Crimson, the most broken stand on the face of this planet. But then he comes across Giorno and the Requiem Arrow, who gives Giorno the most other broken stand of all time. Yeah, go ahead, Beastie. Go on, man.
Yeah, and essentially, like from that, like as we mentioned, the Passione gang that he meets up with, like Bucciarati and all this stuff. They all fight their way to the top of like in a mission way of getting to him, but they do so by doing this mission of like escorting his the Diavolo's daughter, who potentially might have powers. But yeah, they essentially like both Bucciarati and Giorno are like, hey, this is how we'll get her in. This is how we can get rid of the main boss, and then how we can clean up the city and both the big gang itself.
No, remember, call him by his real name. It's Father Bucciarati, as he's
Father Bucciarati, or as some people of the fandom would call Daddy Bucciarati.
that's right,
Said.
Daddy.
Don't do that.
Actually, no. There's actually a third one. Actually, I forgot. There's they call him Mother Bucciarati.
You know what? I
Don't
accept.
do that either.
I accept.
because he's such like a, in a sense, like parental figure. So the mother one was like another option as well.
I take that. Mother Bucciarati. I want that
Yeah.
one. That's the new one. That's the one that sticks.
And when you see how he works with like his specific like task force gang, I should say, you'll see how it works with like why like that mother handle works. So like it makes a lot of sense. Through all that, as mentioned, Diavolo has a powerful stand. It is ridiculously strong in the sense of like how the powers work, but through all these fights and all through the adventures of like going to meet the head boss, they have to deal with again what is known as the stand arrow, as was mentioned before for part 3 and 4. Diavolo wants to get ultimate power with this stand arrow, but from there he faces Giorno and is just like, this is gonna be my time to shine. I might as well get the stand arrow and make myself powerful. Plot twist: he doesn't.
It doesn't happen.
No, but
You mean he doesn't digivolve?
no, he doesn't.
Oh, he doesn't get to, but someone else does, and it fucking hurts.
Mhm.
I believe when we watched it, you were there.
I
Yep.
might have been.
Yes, yeah, we were there for that major fight, Red.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
it's all
Yeah,
coming
yeah,
back to me now. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
really know what perspective in which the show was being told from, so it was a little bit of a blur.
You had witnessed that one, which brings us to part 6, which has never been animated. It's in
We're
limbo.
still waiting for it.
We're waiting for it. It's in the wind. Fans are asking for it. We're asking for it. It's literally tweeted about almost every day. People
Mhm.
bug. There's a counter. The same thing. How many days has it been since they announced Stone Ocean being animated? Not it hasn't been animated yet. So
But
this one,
on
sorry?
paper, it is on the docket, it is coming.
no, there's no word. There's nothing official said
There's-
anywhere.
And that's the thing. Like most of the fans are like waiting for the announcement of it being official. There's been like hints in interviews to possibly making it with the same company that made part 5, but it's still like up in the air. So it's been like basically this big pause hiatus of like what's happening with the next part, and nobody knows yet.
One can
Except-
one can only speculate that it will be done. JoJo's not immune from having the 2-3 year break in between stuff being animated. It's happened before.
Mhm.
So there could be a little break in between. You never know. They might want to allow Raki to finish part 8 off so they can have more material to animate, because animation happens really fast and you can tell the story really quickly compared to the written format. So they might just be giving him a little bit of time. But other than that, yeah, there's been no announcements for part 6. Part 6 is one of those tender ones. It's very divisive. People either like it or hate it. One of those.
So before you said that like part 1 was Phantom Blood, part 2 was this name,
Yeah.
part 4 was Stardust Crusaders.
Part 3 is
Crusaders.
Crusaders. Yeah. Part 4 is Diamond Unbreakable. Diamond is
Yes.
Unbreakable.
Mhm.
Part
And
5
that's
is
the one that the live action,
The
we're not
movie-
going to talk about it too much.
We
It
don't
just
talk about
exists.
that. Yeah.
It does in fact exist. We just refuse to watch it because it's hot garbage.
Mhm.
See a previous episode for our thoughts on that.
Yes.
but that is where that one comes from.
That's where that one
Yes.
comes from.
And so 5 is called,
Golden Wind.
and 6 would be called
Stone Ocean.
cool.
Hmm. So later on with these, I think, so starting from part 4, I guess, these names kind of relate to, in a sense, the stand or the characters.
Well, it also, like, the name, each title it does relate to what's going on in that part. So Phantom Blood was relating to the Stone Mask, Dio, and Dio being an undercover asshole. Right? Battle Tendency being that they had to fight the whole way through, right?
Literally, yeah.
Yeah, even Joseph's life depended on him fighting.
Yeah, they have a tendency to battle. Like,
their tendency to battle, they have to battle. Stardust Crusaders is a funny name as it relates to traveling a whole lot, right? Traveling by the stars and such.
Yeah, and just going on this big crusade per se, all the way to Egypt, essentially.
Yeah, and part 4, Diamond Unbreakable, that relates more to the stand. That is more to Josuke's Crazy Diamond stand. He's able to break things apart and remake them, like reshape them. Henceforth,
Diamond is unbreakable.
There you go. Stardust Crusaders also does relate to Star Platinum in a sense, right? Stardust, Star Platinum. Golden Wind is, of course, Golden Experience,
which is Giorno's stand. Yeah,
which I believe he creates life. Right, he makes life out of anything. So
yeah, he can make life out of anything essentially.
Yeah, and Stone Ocean would be reference to Stone Free, which is Jolene's stand, which we won't see yet. Hopefully, one day it does get animated. If you're not, if it hasn't been animated and you're waiting for it and you want something to read, go look up the manga. It is. I can't tell you exactly where to find it, but do look it up.
Yeah, but for manga readers, they know that's Jolene and who she is.
Isn't that always the way, though? Manga readers be knowing, anime fans be wondering what the hell's going on.
Be guessing.
Yeah, and essentially that was me, because I didn't know what was going on, and I was like, I kind of want to know what happens next, and then I started reading the manga, and I was like, ooh, more adventures, yay!
Yeah. I told him, like, read your manga, read them now.
Do your
like,
homework.
Exactly.
Are they still bizarre? Are the adventures still bizarre, Beastie?
Yes, they stay bizarre. They don't stray away from being bizarre.
No, not at all. Part 6 being all about a Jotaro's daughter, Jolene, stuck in prison. They have a badass dude there named Poochie, who is a low-key terror as he hides himself as a reverend of a church, priest kind of style. He attains Dio's dream of being the OG ultimate god. He achieves the power that Dio wanted from the get-go. I won't explain how that goes down, but do check it out if you can. And then from there, it gets kind of shifty. At that point, when Araki finished part 6, the magazine he was writing for, Shonen Jump, had kind of shut down shop, and so he was kind of forced to close his publication. And when he went to Ultra Jump, he kind of renewed JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and it was kind of rebooted in a sense.
But a weird way, yeah.
Keeps to the themes of what the first 1 through 6 parts did, and kind of renews itself into a whole new world. But that's a discussion for another time. Won't get into that one just yet. So, yeah, that leaves us on our want for a JoJo Part 6, Stone Ocean.
So, with all of us talking about characters who stay dead or characters that come back, is there like a bigger parallel to be drawn between the two franchises on whether we like our characters to have a deep emotional thing, or do we like it kind of comic booky around these parts where they can come back, but maybe they shouldn't all the time?
No, see, for JoJo it works. The battles always want to leave you with the sense of finality. So, like, if it's death, it's gonna be death. There's no shying away from it. There's no coming back from it. It's a defining moment. When it goes down, it goes down. It doesn't shy away from being graphic. It's totally graphic. And I like it that way. For JoJo, it just works. The villains are supposed to feel kind of like a terror, and when they get kind of the upper hand, they are pretty fucking scary, and it works really well.
Mm-hmm.
I think the thing is that a story has to have stakes,
Yeah,
and you can have stakes even with character death being less final, less absolute, so
Yeah.
long as you introduce other elements, other factors.
yeah,
But Supernatural often fails to keep its stakes high because its apocalypses are not overly worrying a lot of the time, just because there's been so many of them. And there's no real concern for the characters' lives because they'll die. Sure, they'll die, but like it's not gonna stick.
no,
Whereas JoJo seems to manage both having high stakes in terms of greater plot occurrences and high stakes in terms of characters' fates,
yeah.
which to me is much more compelling story writing.
I could tell you, if you were to sit down and view like Diamond is Unbreakable, which is part 4, once we get into the full swing of Yoshikage Kira, once he gets to the full swing of being like a fucking villain, you're literally you're you're watching him get away with murder each time, and each time he gets away with it, you get so much more pissed that you literally want to punch your wall like a Tyler because he's getting away with it. You can't wait for him to get his comeuppance. So it's
Right.
like exactly stakes. Like it's one of those like really well written stuff. Like you should check that one out if you get a chance.
I know
Okay.
personally, I really like when the opportunity is there for my character, like Jean Grey, right? She died, but eventually when she came back in a grandiose way.
Yes.
It
It
meant
wasn't just
something.
like snuck into the background and now she's here again, or she wasn't just like put into a book. You know, she was given this grandiose way to come back from the dead.
It
I think
meant
that's the way I
something
like-
that she died, and it
Yeah.
meant something that she lived.
Absolutely. And it also means something that she came back. So I think that's the way I like my storytelling.
It's got to have some meaning to it, some weight.
It's got to have meanings on all three ends.
Yeah.
If you're just doing it just because, you've turned into a weirdly murderous sitcom.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying on that front too, because it's like now you're just taking the piss with your IP here. You're just writing characters in and out for shock value, and you're writing back in like, yeah, okay, we can do this.
If you don't care about your characters, why should I?
Exactly.
Beastie, we haven't heard. What's your opinion on characters coming back, or should their finale be finale?
I mean, I feel like it more or less has to be dependent on the situation, because like, for example, with Iggy, like, bro, like, no, with Iggy and Avdol, man, both of them, they should have still been alive, and I wanted them alive.
Well, listen, man. Like Avdol's, man. The
Yo.
men even have a chance, dude.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, there should have been like some pull of like, hey, there might be some way we can bring him back. But like, those are situational too. So it's like, we're like, okay, he died.
So basically, Avdol confronted for all of 2 seconds Vanilla Ice. Vanilla Ice is a stand user, works for Dio. I think he's also a vampire for that matter too. I think Dio turned him, right? And
no, he attempted to.
I think he attempted, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
His stand power though allows him to devour anything in its path, and it leaves literally no trace of your existence.
Oh wait, for Vanilla Ice, sorry.
Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, sorry, no, yeah, Vanilla Ice did get turned into.
Yeah, he got turned. And yeah, I remember he got turned.
Yeah,
And
I thought you meant Avdol. I was like, wait a second.
Yeah, so when he consumes things, it removes it from existence. Like it was never there. There's no trace of it at all. Period. Yeah, and then when he confronts Avdol, and it's just like, my God. And then he takes on Polnareff and Iggy, and it's like, oh man.
Yeah, so the whole battle, you're just like, dude, what the fuck? Why? Like, no, that's my boys.
I know.
But yeah, in a sense of like how, like you said, I'm 50-50 with it's situational, but at the same time, I'm like, I guess you could say supernatural in the sense. Some characters should be just like left dead. Like they died. We leave it here.
And I think that brings us to the end of an issue. This week, we'd like to give a special shout out to our newest subscriber, Nico Wilson. Thank you for your continued support, and we hope to entertain you as time goes on.
Yeah, thanks for joining. And I guess that's
Steve, walk us out.
All right. Our Twitter is @CrusadeNerd. Instagram is Nerd Crusade, and we also upload our episodes to YouTube every Wednesday. And you can download any previous episodes at thenerdcrusade.buzzsprout.com.
excellent. To be continued, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this issue, go ahead and button mash the thumbs up. If you want to swing by when we have a new video, web up the subscribe button on YouTube or anywhere you can to listen to our podcast. And to be updated to know when a new issue is out, hit the bell to be notified by